The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everyone, co-host Corey here. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. Without you, Podcasting After Dark would not be possible. If you would like to help the show grow, please consider signing up at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. You can also support the show by purchasing one of our awesome t-shirt designs on our merch store at podcastingafterdark.com, or by picking up a copy of 7 Winters Alone by David Irons on paperback, hardback, or Kindle. Just search for 7 Winters Alone on Amazon or click on the link in the show notes. A free way to help out is to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Those reviews are huge for us and really helps get the show in front of new listeners. Again, thank you all so much for the love and support you've given us over these past few years. It really means the world to us.
Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura, a deep dive into underrated and unknown television shows from our youth. Cartoons, sitcoms, cop shows, and much more. Sit back and enjoy some nostalgic fun with TV Obscura.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura. I am 1/3 of the TV Obscura team, Corey, aka Sleazy C. Joined with me, as always, is Zach the Snack Schaefer.
Yo.
And, as always, ever since episode 2 of TV Obscura, is A. Diallo Jackson the Armageddon.
Hello, how are you today?
Back from Hawaii.
Yes.
How are you
Aloha.
feeling, buddy? We were talking a little bit offline. It was quite an adventure for you, huh?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So I went to school there, so it's always like I consider it another home. And I did, for the first time, I actually did like touristy stuff there, so that was pretty fun. Had a very relaxing, living the life, and now I'm back in the grind, and I'm hurting.
You're burying the lead there. You used to work at a Blockbuster Video in Hawaii.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I worked at the Blockbuster Video there. I was in my old neighborhood, took a tour of where I used to live, and
Right on.
I didn't quite get to where the Blockbuster was, but no doubt it's not there anymore. But I don't know what it is. So
Diallo told a great story about working at Blockbuster on $2 Late Fees Patreon. Tales from the Video Store. If you guys are interested, go to $2 Late Fees $2 Late Fees website and click on our Patreon page
Or
for more info.
Or go directly to patreon.com/$2 late fee, and that's TWO, right? Or is it-
Bingo. Yep, it's the first thing you pull up if you type in the search.
Yeah.
Even if you're just looking for it, it's there.
Yeah, and I've told some stories as well, and I'm going to be
sure
back
have.
on as well. So,
Yes, you are.
And we also know that we have a lot of cross-pollination with our Patreon accounts. So, so thank you guys.
Stream crossing.
Yeah, a lot of crossing the
stream
streams.
crossing.
Yeah, a little Ghostbusters reference, but I'll take it.
Diallo joined, I think, so Corey joined for one of our What Does Dustin Know segments, which is a trivia thing, which is really funny. And then Diallo joined us for Why Does Zach Own This, where I feature things from my vault closet where people wonder, why does Zach own this? So Diallo got to see one of the many weird things that I own. So exclusive to Patreon.
And while we're talking Patreon, guys and gals,
Yeah, please.
For our Patreon, Podcasting After Dark's Patreon, Zach and I are going to introduce a new show this month, and it's going to replace our interview series. It's going to be at the same tier and the same price as our interviews, but it's going to replace the interviews. The interviews are now going to get moved to the free feed. We're still going to conduct interviews, and we're always going to release them first on Patreon, but they're all eventually going to come to the free feed. And the new show that Zach and I are starting is called, it's a mini-series. The tier is now going to be a mini-series tier. So there's going to be like sort of, after we're done one mini-series, we can go on to the next one. So our first mini-series is going to be the Carpenter Factor, and we are essentially going to go through John Carpenter's entire movie catalog, starting with Dark Star this month, all the way up until he's done, essentially, to the last movie that's in his IMDb Rolodex. And, it's not going to be a full movie breakdown. It's going to be a free-form discussion, probably the length and style of a Wrap-Up After Dark episode. So we're probably looking at 90 minutes, something like that, hour and 15 minutes, hour and a half. And we are going to obviously revisit The Thing and revisit Prince of Darkness, but one of the things we want to look at as a part of this series is how each movie also fits into the auteur's overall filmography. So we're basically just going to be talking John Carpenter, his influences, how the movie that we're talking about at the time fits those fits his catalog, yada, yada, yada. It's going to be a deep dive into one of our favorite filmmakers of all time.
Oh, wait. Hold on. I thought we were doing the music of Karen Carpenter.
We've only just begun to live.
Fun fact, there's a disturbing documentary that's hosted by her brother, and when she dies and he's like, my sister died and it was very sad. It was a very sad day. But we were all very happy. And the whole time he's light through the whole thing. I'm like, dude, you're creepy. And you kind of aided and abetted to your sister's eating disorder.
Yeah, because she died of bulimia or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
anorexia and bulimia,
Yeah. There's a rumor that he was involved.
And she's the Carpenters, that the show, the band, the Carpenters, that's them, right?
Yeah, her and her brother.
Yeah.
And she was a sick drummer.
She was a sick drummer.
She was
crazy, yeah.
The chick from White Stripes type shit. She was that good.
If you ever watch, it's crazy to watch her drumming back there. It's really amazing.
Did it get to the point where she physically couldn't drum anymore because her strength wasn't there?
Well, she became because she became such the prominent figure in the group, she was just the vocalist. She went the Phil Collins route where she stopped playing the drums and tremendous stress and pressure to look a certain way, yada, yada, yada. It's such a shame because she was so good, man. She was so talented. Her and her brother, I don't, it was a vibe I got from him in this documentary. I'm like, there's something fishy going on there. But I'm bummed that we're not doing Karen Carpenter. Oh, but I am excited about John Carpenter.
There you go.
I can't wait to talk about movies like Starman and Big Trouble in Little China. But we gonna have some good old times, and we are gonna start, like you said, with Dark Star, and make our way all the way up to
Yeah.
The last movie he did.
I mean, it means we're going to have to tackle Ghosts of Mars. It means we're going to have to tackle Memoirs of an Invisible Man.
But he did a movie soon, maybe 10 years ago. It's set in an insane asylum, I think.
Yeah, we're going to tackle it. So, yeah. And we'll see if maybe, I think he has a couple episodes of something under his belt. We're not going to do any of his short films before Dark Star, but if we come across something wonky, like an episode of Masters of Horror, we'll try to watch that as well. We'll try to find that as well. So we're going to try to be as all-encompassing as possible, and who knows, by the end of it, maybe we'll even take an episode to review an album or something of his. That might be kind of neat, something different to do. But just to let you guys know, that's what's changing in this year, in 2020, essentially, with our Patreon. So, but Zach and I do feel that, we're going to leave the tier price the same because we think you'll get the same, if not more, value out of the shows. And we know how much you guys all love John Carpenter, too.
Oh, yeah, and you guys love us. So the feeling is, it's all good. Maybe Diallo will join us on an episode or 2 or 3 or 4 or 8.
I would definitely join you for the Starman episode so I can sing Calling Occupants of Interplanetary Craft.
You heard it here first, guys and gals. Diallo's going to be on the Starman episode.
David Irons right now is going, wait, guys, I want to be on. I want to be on an episode too.
We'll have David on as well. Yeah. Anybody can pop on. It'll be fun. It'll be a fun little ditty.
Wait, guys, I've actually never seen Starman.
Oh,
Actually.
what?
Yeah, it just dawned on me right now.
Oh, it'll bring a tear to your eye.
I remember like being a kid and renting Starman. Like my mom rented it for us, and I was like excited to see it. And then I think me and Luke watched it, and we were like, that was not what we were expecting.
No, it's. I mean, well, we'll save it for the proper episode, but it's a departure for Mr. Carpenter.
Yeah.
Well, to bring it back to TV Obscura, I did watch the Starman TV show starring Robert Hayes. So
yes, that show is the shit.
I remember that show actually too. Yeah. But yes, thank you, Diallo. Thank you for reeling us back in. This is TV Obscura, guys and gals. As you've probably figured out by now, this is going to be a live action episode because we usually leapfrog, do one cartoon, then a live action. So I guess the theme for this episode is late 90s TV series, right?
Well, I was going to title it Two Dudes on Bikes and a Coffin. Because two of the episodes have dudes on bikes.
And
like messengers. Two messengers and a coffin. There you go.
There you go.
I'm like, wait. Does my episode have a guy in a messenger bike in it?
I think yours
because
just
the
has
episode
a
of Strange
coffin.
Luck I watched, it doesn't, but
Yeah.
the episode of Strange Luck I watched does.
So the shows that we are discussing, I will be up first with M.A.N.T.I.S. That's all caps with periods. It's an acronym. M.A.N.T.I.S. from 1994. It was a Fox show, one season. Then up next will be Diallo with Strange Luck. That was 1995, also a Fox show, also one season. And then finally, Zach will be talking to us about Good versus Evil, and that was a
G versus E, baby.
aka G versus E, and that was a show that came on 1999. It was 2 seasons, and what was that, like TBS or USA or something?
USA for one season, Sci-Fi for the second one.
Yeah. Okay. So Sci-Fi picked it up on the second season.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get into all of that. But before we do, M.A.N.T.I.S. M.A.N.T.I.S was an American sci-fi TV series for Fox that aired for one season, 22 episodes, from 1994 to 95. It was created by Sam Raimi and Sam Hamm. Sam Hamm, famous for writing the Tim Burton Batman film, and I believe Batman Returns as well. With the first episode, not the TV movie, but the first episode was directed by David Nutter, famous for Game of Thrones and Space Above and Beyond, a show that we covered on TV Obscura. While the TV movie was filmed in LA, the series was filmed in Vancouver. Speaking of the TV movie, the only person to make it through the massive retooling between the movie and the TV series was Carl Lumbly as Dr. Hawkins. More changes were made mid-season of the show, like basically they dropped his like sassy maid played by Lorena Gale. She was dropped, and more fantasy elements were added to the back end of season 1, and incorporated stuff like time travel, parallel universes, and monsters, all to kind of try to counteract very, very low ratings. Of course, it always seems like creatives decide just to go more fantasy, throw in more fantasy elements, and that'll pick things up. We actually saw that with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea as well. Now, here's the biggest thing with M.A.N.T.I.S. There is a 90-minute made-for-TV movie, and then there is the series. The made-for-TV movie had an impressive cast of actors like Gina Torres, Marcia Cross, Philip Baker Hall, and Steve James. The ongoing series featured people like Roger Rees and Galen Gorge. She was in Point Break. She was in RoboCop 2. She was the girlfriend in RoboCop 2. She was also in Judgment Night. Unfortunately, both Galen Gorge and Roger Rees have both passed. They're no longer with us anymore. Other changes that happened between the 90-minute made-for-TV movie and the TV show. They dropped a lot of the social commentary, some of the more nuanced social commentary that they were doing in the movie. They dropped that. Again, they dropped pretty much every single actor. They dropped his like African student assistants that I really liked. They dropped them. They dropped a lot of people and a lot of things to try to make it, I guess, I don't know. It honestly, I don't know if a better way to say it. They whitewashed it. They whitewashed the series from the movie. I watched the movie, and I believe Diallo did too. Correct, Diallo?
Yeah, I did watch the movie.
Okay. And I also watched the first episode of the proper series to see what the differences are. And Zach, you watched the first episode, correct?
I did, and I didn't realize Galen Gorge has passed away. It's such a bummer.
Yes, she passed away in 2020. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't know.
She's only 55 years old.
Yeah, yeah. The first episode in the proper series does feature Brian James, who we all love, and he kind of is playing a foil to Carl Lumley's character of Miles Hawkins, kind of like another co-creator of some stuff, another scientist type of thing. They also, Roger Rees plays like the co-developer of the Mantis suit, which he wasn't in the pilot movie.
He's great, by the way.
Yeah, he's actually a really good actor, but man, the show itself lost a lot of charm, and we'll get into that in a second. But another thing that they also dropped from the movie to the TV series, in the movie, he kind of wears like a suit and trench coat over his Mantis costume, which I always thought was cool. They dropped that for him just to have the Mantis costume, which I do think looks neat, but I always liked the trench coat over it. I always thought that was really neat. He also had the ability to hypnotize people with his goggles in the movie pilot, but they dropped that for the series as well. But what maintains is his super cool weapon, where what he does, and I've never seen another superhero ever do this, anything like it. He shoots you with a dart that essentially non-lethally freezes you in place, and they do some fun stuff with that, like having the actors like in mid-swing of like a baseball bat, like getting like, frozen and stuff like that. Of course, it's non-lethal, so they kind of like thaw out later and everything, but it's a really, really cool power that I think is something that I'm surprised other people haven't tapped into it, something like that. But right now, it's very much Mantis. Why I picked this, because I freaking loved it as a kid. I watched the hell out of this show when I was in high school. This came out, like I said, in 94 to 95. So I was in 10th to 11th grade. And I watched the pilot, and I do have fond memories of that. But I also watched the series. Pretty sure I watched all of it all the way through. I loved it. I didn't really know Carl Lumley from anything else prior to that, but I was just mesmerized by him. I think he's absolutely amazing. I still love him. I love seeing him pop up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. But like, I think what really kind of stuck with me was the costume design. I thought it was just a cool ass costume, and it has lots of vibes of Batman / maybe Green Hornet. His car can like fly and do things, but at the end of the day, I gotta say, the made-for-TV movie was so much better than the first episode. All the things that they were playing with, him getting, basically he got paralyzed at the riots and the LA riots and stuff. Like, there was this real world like aspect to the TV show, especially maybe because it was also filmed in LA as well. But I really liked the social commentary that they were doing in this TV movie. I mean, they were playing up on a lot of themes that are pretty much in play still today, like the people in power kind of manipulating the media, manipulating people to kind of stay in power, kind of trying to keep other people down and stuff. It was pretty freaking awesome. And Zach, I know you didn't watch it, but I would highly recommend going back and watching that movie pilot, because I think it's done really, really well, and it's kind of like light years more sophisticated than the actual series itself.
I liked the first episode that I watched. I thought it had a lot of charm to it. At first, I was like, "Oh, Mantis looks a little bit like Bible Man to me." With is that Bible Man? But and then the annoying bike messenger who becomes their buddy, kind of like the assistant in the group. The guy in the ground. I thought he was a cool character. Man, yeah, Galen Gorge is gorgeous, and a really good actor. And I actually really liked the premise of the episode. Dealt with kind of what we're dealing with right now, like what do you call it, viruses, know, and so I can see the potential to know that Steve James, that was Steve James' last project he worked on before he passed away. It's sad, but also, sounds like a fitting tribute because he was good in it.
Yeah.
I like the show. I like I like the development that could have been, which was probably obviously established in the TV movie. And man, yeah, the lead actor is phenomenal. As I'm watching him, like, why does he look so familiar? And then when you mentioned Falcon Winter Soldier, I'm like, holy shit, that's perfect.
And of course, the first time when I was watching Falcon and Winter Soldier and he popped up, I literally became the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood meme where I was holding my beer can and pointing and I go, Mantis!
Of course you did. Of course you did. That's so cool. Yeah, I thought, I overall, I really enjoyed it. I would continue to watch more of it. I missed it when I was a kid. Just life, and I think I was consumed with wrestling at the time in 1994, so that everything else went to the wayside. What does the acronym stand for in Mantis? Because in the TV show, the first episode, the messenger boys, like, he looked like a like a mantis, and that's how they kind of gave him the moniker of Mantis.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different for the TV movie than it is for the TV series. The TV movie was mechanically augmented neurotransmitter interception system changed to mechanically augmented neurotransmitter interactive system. So they didn't want to make him an interception, but he made him an interaction. So yeah, it's a long acronym for Mantis.
Well, it's like SHIELD, No one will remember what SHIELD stands for, but they know what the name. So yeah, that's cool. I mean, look, one thing I wanted to point out about that first episode, and I think when I had mentioned the two dudes on bikes, two messengers and a coffin, because Diallo didn't watch that first episode, that main character, one of the main characters, is a messenger. And then in the Strange Luck episode we watched, there's a messenger in that as well. But there's a minivan versus garbage truck car chase scene in the Mantis episode number 1. I'm like, I've never seen that before. Garbage truck versus minivan. Who will win? That was pretty cool.
And there was a cool aspect in the TV movie that I think they dropped for the series, which was he was getting addicted to wearing the suit. So the more he would wear the suit, the less, and it was kind of a twofold addiction. It was like a mental addiction and a physical addiction. And the longer he chose to be the superhero and wear the suit, the less likely they would ever be able to, like, basically fix his back again. Essentially, he would become more and more dependent on the suit completely. And I thought that was kind of a neat idea. The made-for-TV movie definitely had some ideas that they were playing with. Diallo, what did you think of the made-for-TV movie, and what was your experience with the series prior to this?
So I actually never watched it, and I always kind of turned my nose up to it, actually. But I didn't really know what it was about. I remember there being the image of the Mantis character in the ads, and I didn't like the look of it, and it just looked really weird. And like Zach said, he looked like a Bible Man or something like that. So I never watched
Willie
it.
Ames for life.
Yeah, right. But in Slimbeck from Charles in Charge. So then through the years, Alias was on, and then he voiced Martian Manhunter on Justice League cartoons, Carl Lumbly, and I started kind of like getting into like what his career was, and I looked back and I saw that he was in Mantis, and then I was actually kind of interested to watch it, but I never did. He's also in a really good episode of Battlestar Galactica. And
the remake, the one we watched, like the new.
Yeah, the new one. Yeah, it was he played. I forget the guy's name. It was an episode where he had appeared out of nowhere as a colonial fighter, and the Cylons had kept him captive all of that time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
But anyways, so when I knew that he was on Mantis, I had like a little bit more interest in watching it, but you know, it had been some 20 years after, so I never really went back to watch it. So watching the pilot was my very first experience with it. I still didn't like the costume. I liked the movie version, like you said, better, the TV movie version better than I did the one for the series. I liked the trench coat and that kind of stuff, and it definitely had Darkman vibes to it. And also, I realized in the closing credits, Dennis Cohen, who was a artist, did a lot of milestone stuff for DC. I think he did. I keep wanting to say Supreme, but it's not Supreme. But he did that. He did one of the characters that it's kind of like a Superman clone, and he has a kind of a sidekick. Anyways, he did the design for Mantis. And so I had a little bit more like respect, I guess, for the style that it was, because I mean it's a very distinct style, and it's almost like the first time you see Jack Kirby's art and you don't know anything about art, you're almost like, wow, that's really ugly. But then when you kind of understand like the history of comic books and that kind of stuff, then I could just have a better appreciation for it. So anyways, having said all that, watched the episode. I enjoyed it. Like I said, I got a lot of Darkman vibes in particular from it. It felt more like something that would have been made in the 1980s rather than as a 1980s movie. And I'm saying that because you could tell that there wasn't the budget to do like a full production like they would have wanted to do, but like in the 80s. this was in the 90s, but it was on TV. So then I understood that by the time the 90s had rolled around, you could do things better, but it was still on TV, so it didn't have that budget. So you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I felt like, you know, I wasn't in love with it, but I actually kind of appreciated what they were trying to do more, because I had actually no idea how like socially conscious it was trying to be. Like that completely was lost on me from any of the advertising from back in the day.
And I don't think it was lost on you because I don't think it was there for the series, but it was definitely there, you know, for the movie.
Okay, yeah, for the movie it was like front and center. I do feel like it did have a little bit of a feeling though, like, and I'm saying this mostly as a black person in 2022, looking back on how they did the writing, and it did very much feel like it was like a white person writing black characters and black issues. A lot of it centered on what like we call black pain, which is like about being a black person in society and how bad it is, except sometimes we just exist and we don't have to deal with all the, you know, all the isms all the time. So that part was prevalent in a lot of it, especially with the gangs and kind of like Carl Lumbly. And I actually thought this was interesting. I thought this was an interesting character quirk in the TV movie anyway. He was very much stiff and rigid, and he was always trying to like teach even like the gang members how to be better. And he was actually, they even said it in the TV movie that he was a Republican, or like he's That part just made me really laugh.
Yeah.
Because I thought that it was a way for them to write why like he has some kind of character flaw, and I laughed because his character flaw was that. Um, and but yeah, no, it was really fun. I actually really what you were talking about with the darts and the freezing, that was like my favorite part, and that was the most unique thing. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. You know, if they did it, you know, today, I would like to see a lot like a better like look and style of the armor, and some more use of the weapons that he could have done. But overall, it was pretty fun. He had flying car. I mean, what else more do you want?
Yeah. Flying car was dope.
Yeah, no, that's cool, and I do think it probably could make its way to modern times and get a reboot or something. I think there's room for it, and I think he would be a cool superhero to mess with. You know, have actually out there doing stuff. So
he could teach him and oh god, him and War Machine could team up as the two paraplegic soldiers who could walk with their suits.
Thanks to their suits.
Yes.
Did they go heavy into that in the? I mean, I think you mentioned already, but like, if from episode to episode, did they like kind of talk about how he couldn't walk? Because it wasn't. I mean, they touched on it obviously in the TV movie, but it didn't seem to like center around his dilemma. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, the TV series, at least the first episode that I watched, it does address it, and he does seem to be maybe dealing with like some PTSD or depression from it, and that was that was like the thing I kind of liked about the character in at least in the TV movie, and I think they kind of do it in the show as well. He's not like the nicest guy in the world, which is kind of like cool. Like I'm like, okay, he's not like a perfect good guy. He had a lot of flaws, and
I like that.
And his character, yeah, exactly, and I like that too, and I think it opened up, would open up some nice maybe conversations, some nice story arcs and things like that. But I wouldn't be surprised by the end of the series that kind of falls to the wayside for having the fantastical elements being pushed forward, because like I said, I don't think the show didn't do well in the ratings.
I will say too, it's not a criticism. It's just an observation. Brian James in the first episode, they dub his entire voice.
Yeah,
which is really weird.
Oh,
like,
really?
Why did you dub him? And I didn't track the guy who plays like his like security guard with this really bad mullet. He looks like a Chuck Norris stand-in from The Hitman, that terrible movie. I mean, that amazing movie. Kidding. The guy's like, I just don't like his face. I don't like looking at him. You know what I mean? So, but M.A.N.T.I.S was great, and like you said, they changed a lot of the cast over, but some of the mainstays, some of the regulars on the show, pretty good.
Yeah.
And your boy Gary Graham from Alien Nation shows up in later episodes as well.
Yeah, oh, wow. I saw that. Yeah, he plays the police chief or something like that. Yeah, and I do think I would be less critical of the first episode if I didn't watch that hour-and-a-half pilot. But man, the quality of that TV movie was, and I don't just mean like budget-wise. I mean like what they were trying to say and do. I think that was really the highlight. And I do think that what the show that we got is a bit lesser than if they kind of expanded that storyline outwards.
I will say right now, if we ever do an episode where, actually it'd be a great episode to do, where we do TV series based off of movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I've got one teed up right now, where the pilot episode for this series that was based on a movie is so bad compared to the original movie, which is why I want to do it, because I kind of want to go back down and just revisit to see how truly bad it was, if I'm remembering it as bad as it was. So I'm just saying, we might have to go down that road.
I'm always ready to go down those roads with you. But yeah, so that was M.A.N.T.I.S, a show that I remember fondly. I loved at the time, and you know what? I don't know if I would revisit the entire series, but I can highly recommend the TV movie, and I think that is where you should go if you have any interest in the show at all.
Was it a comic book by chance? Did they ever make it into a comic book?
Oh, like post, like afterwards?
Yeah.
That I don't think so. I didn't see anything on Wikipedia about it, but I do think it could have been, like that would have been a good way to keep it going.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity there, especially with, I get it, like maybe it wouldn't fly so well in the paraplegic community because it's like, maybe, who knows, maybe they'd be like against it because he's supposed to embrace the fact that he's in a chair.
Yeah.
Who knows? But I think it would be a great like they could easily reboot this and a great opportunity to really empower people across the board,
Yeah.
But whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What are you going to do?
I was impressed by the cast in the TV movie myself. Like Gina Torres, I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I didn't know she was like up and around doing stuff before. Well before Firefly,
Yeah.
And then Marsha Cross, who was just like coming off of I think she was right around the time she would have been on Melrose Place.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
Was she in Desperate Housewives also?
Yeah, she was. She was one of the
Okay.
mainstays of that show.
I remember that Melrose Place episode where she takes off her wig and you see her horrible burned head or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
So good. Ooh.
big
Burned
reveal.
in my memory.
We're gonna have to do nighttime soap opera shows.
Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey everybody, Corey here. I just want to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
On the winter solstice, when the lasting darkness threatens to descend upon the land of Atalan once united, Magi in training, Wilt Garen, and his shepherd, warrior in training, Bredain Adair, must find an ancient lost weapon before the ultimate ancient evil returns to the world of Eos. Hi there. I'm A. Diallo Jackson, writer of the First Noel's Chronicle podcast. The First Noel is an epic, family-friendly adventure told in serialized form. Think of it as Lord of the Rings meets, Christmas. Join us each week for the next thrilling chapter of The First Noel, now available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and all major podcasting apps, as well as Kindle Vella if you want to take a read. Thanks, and see you in Atalan. The Winter Tell is almost here.
And now, back to the show. Shit, nighttime soap operas. One of my notes here for Strange Luck is this is a nighttime show because like 80% of it takes place at nighttime. Diallo, you want to take us into the D.B. Sweeney vehicle, Strange Luck?
Yes, let's get into it. Strange Luck. It premiered on Fox September 15th, 1995. It was created by Carl Schaefer, no relation.
No, I wish. I have an uncle named Carl.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he's been holding out on you. I don't know.
Get those Strange Luck residuals.
And it, kind of like, Carl Schaefer, just a little bit, something that's kind of interesting about him is he's actually been involved with and created quite a few genre shows outside of Strange Luck. So he created Z Nation. I know Corey used to watch that.
Yeah.
And,
that show was cool.
Erie, Indiana, he created, and he
love that show.
wrote and produced Black Summer, which is kind of a spinoff of Z Nation. Eureka.
I love Black Summer. It's a great show.
Yeah, I love Black Summer. At least I love Black Summer season 1. And he was an executive producer on Eureka and Dead Zone that was on USA. So he has he has a good body of genre work. So it starred D.B. Sweeney, who plays the character Chance Alex Harper. I know D.B. Sweeney the most from The Cutting Edge, which is one of my favorite movies. Toe pick. And he kind of he was traditionally a movie actor, but he had a few flops, and he was looking to do, get some more work, and the Strange Luck TV show came up, and he jumped on it. It also starred Frances Fisher, who was on Titanic. She was on the recent Watchmen HBO series, and She's also she was on Clint Eastwood from time to time. They were in
on him big time.
Yeah, they were in a relationship for quite a few years, and they have I think they have a couple kids together. An actress named Cynthia Martello, who plays Dr. Richter. She's sort of like the forensic scientist that kind of takes an interest into D.B. Sweeney's character, who I didn't say, the story is about a guy named Chance Harper who has strange luck, basically. So he's a photographer who has incredibly uncanny luck. He always ends up drawn into unlucky situations, however. So basically, he just kind of fumbles into a situation, something crazy happens, and the story kind of takes place. So he's always like getting into like these tight spots, but then these really weirdly specific luck instances happen to get him out of it and move the story along. So sort of like the backstory to it is, as a boy, he was in a plane crash and he was the only survivor. And his mother and sister died in the plane crash. And he, in the pilot episode, he actually gets sort of hypnotized by the forensic scientist, and he discovers in his memory that he has a brother that he remembers seeing, before they took off to go to the funeral, or I think it was after the funeral. So he spends it kind of sets up a mystery. So for a lot of the series, it kind of in the background, he's kind of trying to find these clues so that he can find his brother. So basically, he is like I said, he's a freelance photographer. His girlfriend, or his kind of romantic foil on the show, is played by Pam Gidley, and she is a TV reporter, and a lot of times she will call him up to take photographs of scenes or whatever, and it kind of kicks the story along. Yes, the episode that I think I think you guys watched Brothers Grimm, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I picked that episode to watch because it sort of has a culmination in the storyline for finding his brother. Unfortunately, the show only lasted 17 episodes, so we didn't really get to see like how that fully played out. But there was a key moment at the very end, which is like, this show is actually on like 1995 on Fox, and at the very end of the episode, his brother writes D.B. Sweeney's character a letter, and he tells him if he ever gets into trouble, look up his friend at the FBI named Mulder, Agent Mulder, because he's the only guy I can trust. And so really loved that moment, and it was like such confirmation that they could possibly was in the same universe. And who knows what would have happened if the show was able to continue forward. So what did you guys think? Zach, did you like it? Did you not like it? What was up with D.B. Sweeney and his accent?
I have a lot of things to say. First of all, D.B. Sweeney, like, interesting career, right? Because he was on Fire in the late 80s. And then after Fire in the Sky, he kind of took a nosedive with his film choices. He's been in so many. I love Fire in the Sky, by the way. Yeah. But he's been in so many great movies. Memphis Belle is another great one.
Oh yeah, I love Memphis Belle, by the way.
Memphis Belle, and that's got to talk about an all-star cast.
Yeah.
But first thing that popped out to me in this episode, besides that random eyeball that rolls around, I'm like, where'd they get the eyeball? His brother, the guy who plays his brother, the actor is named. He has two names, right? Eric Sanders and Arthur Vandenberg. But you guys should watch the episode to get full context. I don't want to kind of spoil anything. He's played by a guy named Scott Plank, who unfortunately died also. We're talking about people who died in 2002 at the age of 43. Young guy. But
another guy, he was on Melrose Place also.
He was on Melrose Place. He was on Miami Vice. He was on Crime Story. He was in a great, if you guys are fans of baseball movies, like quiet indie baseball movies, like he was in a movie called Pastime with William Russ. And it's a beautiful, beautiful film about baseball. If you love baseball, truly, if you're a fan of like just the process of the game, highly recommend that. Anyways, and then he was in Mr. Baseball with Tom Selleck, which is another baseball movie if you like cheesy baseball movies, but I like that movie. But he was in a movie called L.A. Takedown, a TV movie, which is basically the original Heat. Michael Mann directed it. It's Heat before Heat. And he played Sergeant Vincent Hanna, who Al Pacino went on to play. If we do made-for-TV movies like proper, I'm calling L.A. Takedown, just saying right now. Because I love that movie so much.
I want to stop you really quick, Zach. I did not know that there was a version of Heat before that. And it's so funny you say that it was a TV movie before, because when I watch Heat, I really feel like it feels like it was a series that was crunched down into, a feature. If you get what I mean?
I think it was, yeah, totally. By the way, there's a director's cut of Heat on Blu-ray, and it's like, I think 3 hours long.
Wow.
If you break it up into 1 hour chunks or 45-minute chunks, it's great. Because I know you guys love Heat as well as much as I do. And
top 10 film for me. Top 10.
Yeah, I love that.
Dude,
I do love that movie.
No doubt, for sure. But L.A. Takedown, directed by Michael Mann, written by Michael Mann, also stars Michael Rooker. It's got and Alex MacArthur, who was in a great movie called Rampage with Michael Biehn, directed by William Friedkin.
I remember that movie. Yeah,
he plays Robert De Niro's character in that made-for-TV movie. So just wanted to throw that out there. He's great, and the premise. The show is good. Like, I really like it. D.B. Sweeney, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Diallo, I would assume that his character doesn't have the same tone in other episodes, because this one's very emotional because he's meeting his brother for the first time since the plane crashed. So there's this like hesitancy or like eagerness to be with his brother, right? Almost like a little puppy dog. And so... and I'm assuming that he's not always like that in other episodes of this show. But I love the crossover potential. I think that's so badass. I mean, that's something that, Marvel does nowadays, and everyone's like, oh my God, and then for this to happen in X-Files, guys, listeners, X-Files in 94 was as big as Marvel is now, as big as anything. In 94, it dominated everything. So
wasn't Millennium a spinoff of X-Files? Like, wasn't it connected to X-Files?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It was. And I mean, I want to love that show more than I actually do. I'll put it that way.
Same page.
Yeah. But I really like the little tropes in this show. Like, so I mentioned earlier, he finds an eyeball in his can of beans or whatever that he was putting on the stove. And then the eyeball comes into play later on. It's really fucking cool. I really enjoyed this. But I think what made this episode so enjoyable for me was the acting performances overall. Acting is top notch. I mean, like, everybody in this thing is good. Even the photographer at the funeral. And I don't want to give too much away. That guy is like a kind of, I've seen him in a shit ton of stuff. I think he's like a typical Canadian actor.
Yeah. He was actually it's Roy Dotrice. He's actually, if you watched Beauty and the Beast, he played the father in the Underground Subway series.
Dude,
thank you.
That's what I remember him from.
That's
so
what
good.
I know him from. I loved Beauty and the Beast as a kid.
Yeah.
I watched it so much. I remember the dad character. Thank you, Diallo. You pieced that together in my head just now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm like, why does this fucker look so familiar? That's why he looks so familiar, because we were watching him on CBS. When I realized Ron Perlman was wearing so much makeup for a reason. I'm kidding. I love Ron Perlman.
Was
He's
he
a
wearing
hunk of
makeup
real
on
love.
that show? I don't know.
No. Linda Hamilton. I was like, oh my gosh. I thought she was a babe back in the day. Anyways, love the episode. Want to watch more of it. So glad. Thank God for something like YouTube that has these shows on. I mean, even my pick, the resolution's shit, but at least all the episodes are on there. But yeah, I really enjoyed it for all the reasons I just said.
And,
Toss it over to Corey.
Zach, I didn't remember if you said it or not. You didn't watch it back in the day when it was on, right?
Oh, no. Thank you for pointing that out. No, I didn't. Again, it was like, I think the only thing I watched during this time was wrestling and the X-Files. That was it. Like, I watched X-Files on Sundays, right? Monday Night Raw and WCW Nitro on Monday nights.
Well, and I know for a fact, back in 95, 96, you were watching Seinfeld.
I was actually on Thursday nights,
yep,
right?
Thursdays, yeah.
Yeah, I was watching that. I was watching Seinfeld. My family, it's funny, I watched wrestling by myself primarily, but as a family, at least my mom and my stepdad and I, we sat down and we watched the X-Files together. We watched Seinfeld together. We watched those like big shows. This came and went. I remember when it came on, and like you said, Diallo, 17 episodes is, if you guys think about it, it's really nothing. And they probably sandwiched 2 or 3 of those episodes like on a weekend or back to back, just to shelve them. Yeah. So
originally
because
it was a Friday night show. That was
it
back
looks like
when,
a Friday night show.
But that was that was actually back when Friday night wasn't like the graveyard. Because actually, I don't know if you remember that X-Files actually was on Fridays for the longest time.
Miami Vice was a Friday night show.
Yeah.
Miami Vice.
And so I think that that's right. And I think that they put it. I think they were trying to like paired it with what do you call it? With the X-Files, and it just didn't hit. And then eventually they moved the X-Files to Sunday, and with Space Above and Beyond.
Okay, nice. I was gonna say one more thing, and I wasn't sure if this was like, because I didn't see it a lot during that time. They had like what seemed like original music in the beginning of the episode and kind of playing throughout the episode, which reminded me of like what Grey's Anatomy does a lot nowadays. And a lot of shows in the mid to late 90s started doing it in the early 2000s. That felt somewhat original to me. I mean, obviously Miami Vice is the god of putting music in shows, but it felt like that was somewhat original for them to throw in these kind of original songs. I don't know if that was something that was going on at that time, but it feels like it wasn't, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels, my notes here is like, it feels like such a late 90s, show, including the music. I put in my notes that I loved the music in this episode. It was very stylized and moody, and they were doing a lot of interesting stuff. I'm going to spoil it. When the brothers kind of like they go their separate ways at the end of the episode, but there's a cool shot of the two of them as kids hugging, but they don't like go somewhere else. Like they basically change the actors to the kid form and keep the same set and location, like where they are in that moment, but having their two kid spirits sort of hug, and then it kind of fades back into them because they don't hug. They kind of just look at each other. I thought that was so moving. I thought that was so powerful and so well done for just a TV show, a Fox Friday night TV show. I thought the intro was so 90s, in a good way. All of these, when I say it's so 90s, I mean it in the best possible nostalgic way. For me, I remember when the show came out, I wanted to watch it. I actually did, because I had an obsession with luck. I liked characters that relied on luck, like Longshot in the X-Men, and just characters that like can either affect luck or do something with luck. I always thought it was a really, really cool thing. On the other hand, I wasn't the biggest DB Sweeney fan, but it didn't stop me from watching it. So I'm thinking, when this came out, I think I had something going on Friday nights. Maybe I was working or something. I don't know. I think I was probably in 11th grade or 10th grade when this was out. So I must have been probably like working a part-time job at the time. Friday nights, if you're going to work a part-time job, you're probably going to be working Friday nights. So I didn't see it. But I'm glad I did, because I do remember wanting to watch it, and I really liked the Brothers Grimm episode. I thought that it was really well done. DB Sweeney is interesting in it. Like you guys, my biggest sort of connection to him is Memphis Belle and Fire in the Sky. But I do remember the skating movie. Like, I remember the poster. I remember the what's it called again, Diallo?
The Cutting Edge.
The Cutting Edge. I remember that when it came out.
Moira Kelly.
Yeah,
Moira Kelly.
Moira Kelly is a favorite of mine.
Oh man, we have to go back and watch that.
That is pure 90s there. That movie is a pure. I think it came out in the late 80s, but it's pure 90s.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought the episode was really well done. I actually would like to go in and sink my teeth into it and actually, watch the series. The link that we watched, it was fine and everything on YouTube. So I would recommend it. I think it's a slick show. I think the episode that we watched, I thought was very well made. I thought everybody in it acted really well. It had a caliber to it that kind of put it above other things, I think, are of the era of that ilk. There's something, a little bit of an X factor to it. Maybe it's, DB Sweeney being a movie actor, he brought a little bit of a gravitas to the series, and I felt like makes it feel bigger, and then the whole connection to X-Files, I think that's really cool. That was a fun little Easter egg and everything. And yeah, it's a slick little stylized show. Diallo, one thing I really loved was just the music and how the funeral scene. I thought it was just really well done. Yeah. Is music as central to other episodes, or did they really save it for like this special one?
I didn't, as I was watching it, I actually keyed in on the music as well. But I don't remember that like being a thing in my brain at the time. And maybe just because that was such a part of what TV was at that time that I just didn't register it. But yeah, watching it, I noticed they had a lot of like that like new agey. I think it sounded like Lorena McKinnon, I think her name is. The things like the Mummers Dance or like Enya, that kind of style for some of the scenes, and then they had like a little bit more. In the pilot they had, it was a little bit more. That kind of like that soft sax that you have in like in some shows. Even like in Midnight Caller, like it had a little bit more of that vibe. So yeah, I don't quite remember. I'd have to go back and like watch all of the episodes to answer that definitively. But yeah, and also to answer a little bit, Zach, you asked if DB Sweeney was as pensive or whatever, and he definitely was more peppy in most of the episodes, but he was really kind of soft. Like he always had like a heart. He always wanted to help people, and that was his whole thing. He always shows up to help people. He kind of has this like rap sheet in the pilot that shows that he has a history of getting into people's affairs. But he's never convicted of anything because he's always like solving the case of the crime. But the cops are kind of searching him down. He has like attempted murder and all this stuff on this rap sheet that doesn't But anyway, so yeah, he's always kind of peppy. In this particular episode, yeah, it was like a buildup of 10 episodes, and so you finally got to see the brother, and yeah, he actually was very passive in that episode. He kind of sat back, and it wasn't until he was in the diner that scene, kind of like midway through, that he actually was in a scene by himself without his brother, and then he was a little bit more himself. So yeah, he definitely was. He wasn't as calm in the show.
Yeah, you notice a tonal shift when he's alone. You're right. His kind of attitude shift.
And not to bring it down, but Pamela Gidley passed away in 2018 as well.
Oh shit, man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
she was great. She's great. She's in a ton of straight to video movies.
She was in Cherry 2000.
She was in a movie with Eric Roberts and Jeff Fahey.
She actually played Cherry 2000 in Cherry 2000.
Right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I've seen that movie, but I haven't seen it since I was a kid. And in my head, I always think Melanie Griffith is Cherry 2000, but it's not.
No, and Tim Thomerson's in that too.
I'd like to revisit that one. I like, again, I've seen it when I was a kid, but I do not remember it at all. Brian James is in Cherry 2000 as well.
Yeah, Cherry 2000. Actually, that would be a pretty decent pad movie.
Okay.
Yeah, she's in a movie called Free Fall. She's in a movie called Free Fall, which I highly recommend. It's if you like Eric Roberts and Jeff Fahey. You know, you're talking about different shows with these actors. When I looked up Scott Plank, he was in Air America, had a TV series, or was supposed to be a TV series.
Based on the movie?
Yes.
Okay.
And yeah, he was in 26 episodes of Air America with Lorenzo Lamas.
Holy shit.
Oh. Didn't he come up like recently when we were talking about Lorenzo Lamas?
Lorenzo Lamas, yeah, I think we did. He got brought up somehow. And then he was on the TV series The Big Easy, which was a TV series. They made a TV series off the Big Easy.
Yeah, I was gonna say based off the movie. Is that another one based off the movie? What are they gonna do? Make a TV series based off the Big Chill too? Next?
Why not? Yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was kind of random. So
yeah. All right. Well, so far two very different but very interesting shows. Finally, Zach is gonna take us home with G versus E, aka Good versus Evil, aka the show that I remember always seeing the ads for, always wanted to watch it, but never did.
Same.
Same. Hey everybody, Corey here. I just wanted to let you know that we'll be right back after these short messages.
Imagine being one of the last people on Earth, being trapped alone with something not human, something always watching, something always waiting. What would you do? Where would you run? Where would you hide if you were haunted for 7 winters alone?
Podcasting After Dark presents 7 Winters Alone, a dystopian haunted house story by David Irons.
Available now in paperback and ebook.
And now, back to the show.
I wish I could have given you guys a pristine version of this. All that is available of this show online are like really crappy VHS recordings, unfortunately. G versus E, originally G versus E, then became Good versus Evil, ran for 22 episodes on the USA Network and then on Sci-Fi. So the first season, which was basically like 11 episodes, was on USA. Then it switched over to Sci-Fi from 99 to 2000. Very short-lived series. It was created by Jonas and Josh Pate. Recently, those guys have done a show called Outer Banks, which I'm not familiar with. But then I read the premise of it. It sounds pretty cool.
I watched that show on Netflix.
Oh, is it any good?
It's I enjoy it, but it's really kind of bad actually. But
okay.
It's like bad teen adventure soap show, but I really kind of
want to watch it then.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's like I have nothing, like I don't think it's great, but like I'm addicted to it at the same time. So.
Does it take place in the Outer Banks in like South Carolina, like on the East Coast? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
cool. I want to check it out.
All right.
There's like sunken lost treasure, and they gotta find it, and running from cops. It's really fun.
Okay.
I like that. Yeah. So these guys started out with G versus E. The premise is the main character, Chandler Smythe, played by Clayton Rohner. Put a pin in his name because I want to come back to how much I love that guy and how much I have a man crush on him, but we'll get back to that in a second. Chandler Smythe on his birthday is murdered. When he comes to, he's in like a office building with 2 cops. Played by, they seem like cops, played by Marshall Bell and Googie Gress. Marshall Bell, I think we all know from Total Recall,
Total
as
Recall.
Corey likes to say, and many other things. Marshall Bell was also in Friday Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2 as the S&M PE coach. Googie Gress, you'll recognize that guy instantly. I mean, he's been on a million different things, but he was on the TV show Parenthood fairly recently. Great character actor. So they kind of introduce themselves as being a part of the core, and inform Chandler that he has been killed. Immediately he's like, this is a joke. This isn't real. They show him photos of his dead body on the ground. They're like, it is real. And you've been selected to be a part of our police crew. Basically, the Corps are like a supernatural police team fighting against Morlocks, which are like evildoers from hell, basically. Morlocks make deals with mortals and Faustian deals to turn them in. And if they make a Faustian deal with a mortal, that mortal will also become a Morlock. Chandler is given the second chance of life in order to become a part of the Corps, assist in capturing Morlocks, and eventually moving on to either the afterlife or with his son. We find out in that first episode that his wife was killed sometime before, and so now his son is basically an orphan. And he cannot connect with his son because there's rules once you join the Corps. One rule is no physical interaction with humans, with mortals, and no connection to anybody from your past. So he, as long as he kind of does the job that the Corps gives him, he can potentially be with his son down the road or with his wife in heaven. He's given a partner named Henry McNeil, played by Richard Brooks. And if you don't know who Richard Brooks is, Law and Order was his main show back in the day. The dude was one of the
District.
He was one of the mainstays. Yeah, he was one of the mainstays on the show, on Law and Order, the original Law and Order with Big Dick Energy, Michael Moriarty.
Yeah, Moriarty. Yeah, BDE Moriarty.
Right. But and Richard Brooks was the best thing about the Crow sequel. The only good thing about the Crow sequel.
The City of Angels one. Yeah, Crow 2, City of Angels. I saw that.
Yeah. He was also in The Hidden, which is a really killer, hopefully down the road pad movie. Action sci-fi. Yeah, he was a cop in that as well. He's so good. Richard Brooks is, and he plays Henry McNeil. So Henry, and his character was killed in the 70s, so he looks like he's from the 70s.
Yeah, it's good.
And which is great. He's got this big afro. He basically looks like a cool, calm, and collected version of Samuel Jackson's character from Pulp Fiction. It's clearly an influence, Samuel Jackson's character, on Henry's character. Like I said, they are partners in crime, or partners to take down these Morlocks, these demons. The series narrator, who every single episode narrates the intro to the show, is basically the premise of the show in every single episode. It's narrated by Deacon Jones. He's the police chief of the Corps. And if you don't know who Deacon Jones is, he's a Hall of Fame football player. He played for the Rams. He's part of the Fearsome Foursome. And so the setup for the show is, like I said, it's a cop show basically, but it's supernatural. And it's got tremendous vibes of like Pulp Fiction, blaxploitation, 70s cop shows. It's got very unique shoot, like the way the way they shoot their scenes is very unique. It's very artsy in some respects. But before we talk about the episode I recommended to Diallo and Corey, I just wanted to say Clayton Rohner, who's the lead actor in the show, I've had a man crush on him ever since. I'm blanking right now on the
Relic?
movie he was fucking.
G versus Z.
Oh, I had a man crush on him ever since Just One of the Guys. And I met him in LA in 2003. I was at a pizza place. He saw me. I saw him. I stood up to say hi to him. He looks at me and he goes, "I know you." And I go, "No, you don't, but I wish you did." And he's like, "I'm Clayton." And I go, "I know, I'm Zach. I'm a really big fan of yours." And I was like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you." I said, "Man, I got to tell you, G versus Z, one of my favorite shows of all time." He's like, "Really? Really? Oh, that's so nice." And he gives me a big old hug and just like the sweetest guy. Hopefully one of these days we have him on Interviews After Dark. Who knows, because he's a legend in the business, in my opinion. Just the style, the look, I modeled myself after him, bar none, because of this show and other things.
Well, so much so to the fact that like you've been chomping at the bit to bring this show to TV Obscura. You picked this first, and then Diallo and I kind of built the episode around it. So I just wanted everybody out there, the listeners, to know how much you really do love this show.
I really do love this show. As much as the Hat Squad, which was my first pick of all time. Two very obscure shows. But this really taps into like my development as a teenager, as a young 20-something, like what was cool to me kind of thing. And I thought this show just epitomized like what I loved about television. The episode I brought to the episode I brought to TV Obscura is called Burial. Burial. Sorry. Is called Buried. It's a fun fact, a listener of the show and a buddy of mine from high school, Dean, was like, "Oh, my favorite episode was Buried." I'm like, "Dude, that's the episode I'm picking for TV Obscura." So shout out to Dean. This episode follows Chandler. Chandler's always with Henry fighting crime, fighting Morlocks. But then for the first time, he kind of wants to go off on his own and have his own mission. So, one of the main points of this show is the Corps goes out, finds humans before they've made a deal, a Faustian deal, and tries to convince them otherwise. And Chandler goes out and finds this boxer by the name of Henry Culpepper. And Henry Culpepper is a boxer who's like up and coming, and but he's getting really, really good out of nowhere. And Chandler recognizes that he's probably made a Faustian deal. The guy denies it. When ultimately Chandler goes to kind of confront Culpepper, he gets snatched up by Morlocks, who you don't see their faces. You rarely see their faces. If you do, it's very demonic looking.
Unless it's Emmanuel Lewis.
Unless it's Emmanuel Lewis. And so they take Chandler and they bury him alive, and pretty much the rest of the episode from that point on is him calling Henry, Henry's trying to find him, find out where he is, but he's calling him on his cell phone from the from his coffin. And the whole time Henry is trying to track him down. Henry runs into a Mexican S&M dominatrix, transgender dominatrix, transvestite, I guess. Is that? Yeah, sure. Cross-dresser, know, and then he has to. Apparently, one of the number one Morlocks is Emmanuel Lewis. Yeah. Emmanuel Lewis guest stars on this episode.
Guest stars, then explodes.
Yes. So this is kind of leading up to Henry trying to track him down, trying to find him. Eventually, he does. But in the meantime, like I said, the premise of the show, Chandler is not allowed to have any contact with people from his past. He sees his son throughout this series, and when he does, his son never knows who he is. At one point, his son steals the car that they drive around in. But he calls his son. They're able to patch. He's like, can you patch my son in? Can I talk to him one last time before I die? Because he's been, the Corps has resurrected him. He's now mortal as well.
Right? Yeah.
But he can re-die. Yes. And so he calls his son, and his son's playing, like, I want to say it's not straight out of Swingers.
He's definitely playing Nintendo 64.
Yeah, he's playing Nintendo 64, and he's like, "Hey, it's your dad." And he's like, "Yeah, Dad, whatever." Like, just basically blows it off like it's a crank call. It's a really funny scene, in my opinion. But this show is very unique. And like I said, it didn't last very long. It tried a lot of new things throughout the show. It was quirky, and every episode was kind of a standalone in a way. That's probably why they had the intro to every episode kind of telling you what the whole show was about before you started watching it. And it always ended with Deacon Jones giving like a tip on how to defeat a Morlock at the end.
And it's and it's kind of like he's with somebody else who looks like more of a crew member of the series than actually like
probably is
an actor. And it's funny. That little closing thing was funny.
Yeah, and I'll say the last thing I'll say about the show that I think they tried to kind of make it a little bit more edgier. They swear a lot in this show, but the swears are muted, and I think that was intentional because it was on USA. This show was never released on DVD. You can find shitty copies of it on YouTube, unfortunately, but at least it's out there to watch on YouTube. So that is my vomit of G versus E. Corey, what'd you think?
Dude, I loved it. It was like Corey said, I always saw the ads. It looked cool, and I don't know why I missed it. It just, whatever. I don't know that I had cable at the time or something. I was busy running the streets. I don't know. But one of my notes was actually, I wrote the G versus Z. It's like tons of shows I missed today, but streaming lets me see them eventually. So, and that because I had that vibe when I watched it. 'Cause I was like, yeah, like if you live the life I live, everyone's always telling me I have to watch this show or that show. Totally. They want to hear my comments on it or whatever. But like, I'm doing lots of things and I don't always have time to actually watch it. And I get a little stubborn about what I am watching. And I felt that vibe with this show. It was like, I definitely would have watched it. But for whatever reason, I didn't catch it. And because it was in that era when we couldn't just like pop in the show whenever we wanted, I just completely missed it. But having said all that, like I really loved it. And I was surprised. I knew what the premise was. I remember the actors in it, but it was the editing and it was the pop. It was the fun. It was definitely a comedy. Like it was really, I mean, I was laughing. And like, you said you have a man crush on the one guy. I wouldn't say I have a man crush on Richard Brooks, but he is one cool dude, and I could just listen.
Cool.
I could just listen to him talk. Like his voice is just so like distinct, and I love the way he just says all his lines all the time. It's a he was. I don't know if you remember, he was in an episode of Firefly where he plays this bounty hunter named Early, and such a distinct like one role, but it was like kind of iconic. And anyways, yeah, I really loved it. I didn't catch the whole thing with the Morlocks and kind of what exactly was going on. I didn't watch the pilot episode. I don't know if they probably covered a lot of that in the first episode. So there was one that scene when he's leaving and he's like, "Hey, are you a Morlock?" And I didn't like quite know what that was, and I was thinking back to like the Time Machine, or the X-Men. I wasn't sure what he was. I thought he was. I thought he was referring to like the literary Morlocks. I didn't until you just said it now. I didn't know that was like a part of the world building of the show. But anyways, it was really cool. Loved it. I'm actually gonna go back and watch the show on YouTube for now, I guess. It was really cool. Like it's one of those shows where I just like with almost everything else, like I feel like it just kind of didn't come out at the right time. But it was definitely ahead of its time in terms of like the genre bending and kind of stuff that they were doing with it. Deacon Jones at the end was just, I wasn't expecting that at all. And then like, I'm like, what, Deacon Jones? This is crazy.
So random.
Yeah. And that's great. All that stuff is great. And, if it had come out now, if it was on like Netflix now, people would be kind of, raving about it, I think, but it just kind of got lost. And...
If it came on Netflix now, even though people were raving about it, they would still cancel it after the first season.
No kidding.
But I got shades of like Cowboy Bebop with the intro, how it's like this modern take on 70s like cinema and stuff with G versus E. So, Diallo, I kind of cut you off, or I didn't mean to.
Yeah, no, it's actually funny. You said exactly what I was thinking with like Cowboy Bebop. Actually, like it has that mixture of genres and energy and flow that the anime does actually extremely well. But the Netflix TV series, I think it took a little bit to kind of get there. But the TV show, I think, eventually got that point too. So it was great. That's all I got.
Yeah.
Nice.
Pretty much the same feelings as Diallo, same experience as well. I never watched it. I remember seeing the ads. It was probably one of the highest shows that it was like, I always like, every time I saw the ad, I was like, I want to watch that. I want to watch that. And I don't know if I just, like Diallo says, I don't know if I didn't have cable. I might have been in college at the time, so I know I didn't have cable. But I do remember wanting to watch it, right? Then it kind of just, fell away from my memory. And Zach brings it up and, he's like, hey, let's do G versus Z. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. I go look at it. I'm like, oh, yeah, that show. I always remember that one. So I got excited. So I go watch this episode, Buried. Didn't look at IMDb, didn't really look into it, and had no clue, that it starred Clayton Rohner, who I love as well, but my experience with him is very singular, and it's The Relic. I loved the movie The Relic, but I specifically loved him in The Relic to the point where I wish he was the main character. Like, I not to say anything negative about Tom Sizemore, because I really liked him as well, but I didn't know Clayton Rohner really until The Relic, and I was like, I want more of that guy. I like that guy. And so right when it pops up, I'm like, oh, it's him. It's him from The Relic. I'm like, I love him. And I love him just as much in this episode for all the same reasons I loved him in The Relic. But, no, it's a good one. It's a good one. Talk about a singular love. Firefly, one of my favorite shows of all time, but The Bounty Hunter Early is one of my favorite TV characters ever created.
Wow.
Zach, have you ever seen it? It never aired. That was like the episode of Firefly that didn't air. You can only get it on the DVD. It's like the last episode. And there's a bounty hunter that basically gets on board the ship when everybody's asleep, and it's him. It's Richard Brooks. But he is so good as Early. And I never really sort of put it together, who he was, because I just didn't look into it. And so watching this, and I'm like, I immediately, like, I'm in love with him. And I'm like, why do I love him? And then I IMDb him, and I'm like, yeah, Crow, City of Angels, I liked him in that. And I was like, oh, he was fucking Early in Firefly. And from that moment on, my jaw was agape. And I was like, I want this show. I want this show on DVD. I need to own this show right now. Two of like my favorite side characters, like two of my favorite weird side characters in one show together. The humor was fantastic. The acting was fantastic. The premise was a lot of fun, although I'm kind of like Diallo. I didn't really quite understand what was happening, but because we didn't watch the pilot, but it was fine. I got past it and everything, and just every time someone else would pop up, like Quado and everything, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like so many people are on this show, but honestly, Clayton Rohner and Richard Brooks are the reason to go watch this. They ooze fun. And they weren't even in it really together. Like, they're in the episode, but they're not like together. They're because they're on the phone and everything, and he's sort of tracking them down. And and there's like Richard Brooks gets into like a zany adventure trying to
it's
get
like
his
about last
partner.
after hours.
Yeah, it's like a very
totally.
much like an after hours sort of scenario. And then it felt very progressive with the gay 911 operator, and then the transgender like witch / dominatrix. I was like, I was loving everything that this show was giving me. Even the boxer kid was silly and fun.
He was hilarious.
And then the icing on the motherfucking cake was Emmanuel Lewis in this thing. They had to go get Emmanuel Lewis because he was in prison for being a Morlock. He was in their prison, And then they basically try to like do this like switch off type of thing, but he has like they put bombs on Emmanuel Lewis, and they gave like the other cop like a button to press if anything happens. And of course he fucks up and blows up Emmanuel Lewis like right then. It's hilarious. And I knew they were going to go there, but I also couldn't believe that they went there. It was good. It was really good. Zach, it lived up to the hype that you built up with it. I don't know if it would have lived up to the hype for me if it didn't star Clayton Rohner and Richard Brooks, but I basically almost fucking ejaculated in my pants when I first saw them because I just couldn't believe these two obscure actors that I love for very specific characters, you know what I mean? And it's not like huge things, but they're both together, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. And if anything, I get more early, from Firefly.
Yeah.
And I adored him.
I quote early just to myself often. Like there's a line when he's like, a lion?
Yeah,
I never thought of myself as that, but I do have a mighty roar.
Yeah, because she says you're lying. I love that, dude. Zach, if you could, I implore you, please go watch that episode of Firefly, whichever one has Richard Brooks. It's like the very last one on the DVD, and it never aired, and it probably is my single favorite episode of Firefly, and it might actually be my single favorite episode of like any TV show ever.
Wow. I mean, that's
I have the
quite
box
an
set, so
endorsement.
I'll bring it over, Zach.
Okay, we'll watch it together.
I think you'll like it, Zach. I really think you'll like that episode.
Yeah, really good.
I mean, wow, that's high praise for sure. I will definitely check it out. These two dudes epitomize cool. They look cool. The poster art that the TV poster art or whatever is cool. The way they stylized it. One of my biggest gripes with Pulp Fiction was that John Travolta and Sam Jackson's characters, they didn't look cool to me, especially John Travolta with it. Like they didn't at the time, because at the time I was like, John Travolta when he's wearing his Santa Cruz t-shirt with his long ass hair slicked back, and
the Santa Cruz isn't his outfit. That was because he got blood on his outfit. It looks
Yeah.
cool as shit with their white
that was
black
kind of the
outfits.
point.
For me, it just like they didn't look as cool to me as Clayton Rohner and Richard Brooks did in G versus E.
Okay.
They look cooler to me.
Okay.
Because I'm like, for me, I'm not going to be wearing a suit walking down the street. But what I am going to do is sport like one of those leather trench coat jackets, mid trench coat jacket with the fucking,
The
collared
post
shirt
70s, the post 7, late 90s. Who Clayton Rohner had that same 7 jacket in The Relic.
In The Relic. By the way, if you've never read the book The Relic, it's very different from the movie, but it's really good. I just read it earlier this year.
Oh, and by the way, part 2, I would love for us to do The Relic on Pad one of these days.
Me too, because I love that movie. Maybe the last really good Tom Sizemore movie too.
Yeah, seriously, yeah.
That where he was the lead. One of the few where he's the lead. I love what. I'm glad you guys enjoyed this show. Buried is a different episode, and that's why I wanted to point it out. It's very different. The rest of this episodes are kind of more straightforward. But I thought this one was so unique, and it's one of my favorite episodes from the series. The first episode, the pilot, it's good as well. It's really good. And it's funny, and creepy too. The opening 10 minutes of that episode are really creepy. Shades of like Dario Argento's Demons with the way the Morlocks look. One element that I really liked about this show too is that it takes place in Los Angeles, so there's a lot of inside jokes. One of which being traffic in LA.
Yeah.
So if you live in LA, or if you've ever have lived in LA, there's a lot of inside jokes that go on there. But yeah, it's such a shame that this show didn't get the traction that it got, because it deserves more. And I'm glad I could bring it to you guys finally.
Why is it not out on DVD? Like, what the fuck?
I don't know.
Is it the TBS/Sci-Fi, like who owns the rights to it type of thing or something like that?
Probably.
We couldn't get the rights from M.A.N.T.I.S.
Probably.
Well, yeah, right. What's interesting is probably Universal owns it.
Yeah.
And Universal owns He-Man, that property, which is, and there's a reason why, like, they've been so stingy about releasing that on Blu-ray, for example. I don't know. They're so weird about Universal's weird about their shit, right? And so maybe that's why. Who knows?
Or they probably
I hope it sees the light.
They probably crunched some numbers or did something and figured out, you know what, it's not worth us, producing it and doing it. But then we always talk about on the show, like, then give the rights over to like a boutique company or something to put it out. If it's,
I know. Look, Shout Factory puts a shit ton of Universal stuff out. Why can't they? They put Manimal out, for crying out loud. Why can't they put G versus E out?
Yeah. No, I think this show would do very well on DVD. Of the three shows that we talked about tonight, I think this one probably would hold up the best and is probably the most deserving of a Blu-ray or DVD box set release.
I would agree.
Watch it.
Yeah, and you're going to. And you already said you're going to on a shittier quality. So Universal, put it out. You already have 3 sales right here.
I can guarantee you, people listening to this right now, like one of our patron subscribers, Erin Gilmer, I know she's a huge fan of G versus E.
Yeah.
And I was going to point out too, it was G versus E when it was on USA, and then it changed to Good versus Evil on Sci-Fi for whatever reason. And the episodes do get diluted a little bit. The last half of the episodes, unfortunately, they're not as strong as the first half. But again, like you pointed out, kind of character actors, right? You could say Richard Brooks and Clayton Runner are characters. Yeah. They're not, like, they haven't been leading men, but to be leading men on a show like this and carry it so well and have a strong supporting cast. Like, this show does have a lot of cameos throughout. The dynamic with him and his son is really funny because he's trying to connect with him, but, and the kid's an asshole. But granted, it's understandable. Both his parents are dead, so he might be an asshole too. I hope it sees the light of day, but at least it saw the light of TV Obscura.
That's right. Long time coming. All 3 of these shows are vastly different. You got 2 supernaturals and 1, I guess, superhero story. But they're all very, very late 90s. Like, you could just, each one, as I'm watching, I'm like, man, this is so 90s. And again, in a good way. So I very much enjoyed my time with all 3 of them. I think that my final thoughts, and I'll let you guys do yours. My final thoughts for M.A.N.T.I.S, I'd say if you want to watch anything, watch the made-for-TV movie. I think that's the strongest version. Strange Luck, I think that was fun. So just pick any episode and get into it. And G versus E, just watch the whole entire thing.
Can I point out one thing? I don't think anybody on my show. Oh well, isn't it? Emmanuel Lewis is no longer alive, right? Is he alive?
No, he's still alive. I believe
he is alive. Okay.
Don't ask me why, but I recently looked that up.
Can I say that everybody on my show is still alive?
There you go.
You can say that.
You can say that. That is a fact.
What a bummer, though. What a bummer. Like, both of you are pointing out people who died on your shows. I'm like, I really like those people. Man. Oh, sucks.
Yeah, when I was looking up and I saw that they had passed, I kind of was like, yeah, I mean, it's been a while, like those shows were in their heyday in the 90s, and we're just getting old, man.
I still don't feel like I still don't feel like 2000 is 22 years ago. Like,
dude,
isn't 22 years ago the 80s? Isn't that just the 80s?
Yeah, pretty much.
That was 40 years ago.
Ah!
I just interviewed Barry Bostwick for $2 late fee, and we talked about, of course, Megaforce, which came out in 1982. We're recording this episode in 2022. If you're listening to this in the year 2069, who knows? And it's celebrating its 40th anniversary.
Yeah.
Wow.
40. Oh my God.
And I can still remember being in my, like, reading comic books as a wee little tyke and seeing the Megaforce ads in the comic books, man.
Everywhere.
I can remember it like it was the yesterday, and that was 40 fucking years ago. My God.
Well, let me tell you, you know what else came out in 82? E.T.
Yeah, well.
The Thing.
The Thing, great. Fuck E.T. I don't give a shit about that movie.
Rocky 3. Rocky 3.
I know. Diallo,
Crazy.
what are your final thoughts on these 3 episodes?
It took me 40 years to see Megaforce. That's what I'm thinking.
That's true. No, 39, I think, or 38.
I literally was on a quest to watch that movie for 30-something years.
Thanks to our buddy Scott Zillner. Give me a free copy.
And I finally saw it, and it was amazing. Anyways, my final thoughts were, I loved all of them. M.A.N.T.I.S, I was the one I was the least cool on, but I actually really appreciated, like I said, once I realized the designer of it, and that Sam Raimi was behind it, I really appreciated what I think they were trying to do. And obviously I like Strange Luck, but my favorite actually of all them that we watched was G versus E. Like, I'm just stunned that I didn't watch it when it was on. I don't know why I didn't. Like Corey said, I'd see the ads, and every time over the years Zach would bring it up, I'd always be like, oh yeah, I kind of get a little excited when you say the names. I'm like, oh yeah, it's in a category of like shows I've never watched, but I really like. You know?
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. It's perfect. Same.
Yeah, there's a bunch of shows, and then it's one of them. And so, like, when I actually watched it, I'm like, man, and it's like way better than I ever could have imagined. And I'm,
awesome.
Kind of perplexed that it didn't last, but I can kind of see why. It was a little bit before they were able to perfect like the formula for shows like that. So I think that's kind of why it faded. Because like right after that, you had stuff like Monk, Eureka, all those shows on USA, and that's when they really were able to get them going. But anyways, really dug it, and I'm really glad once again that you guys picked the shows you watch, and even with M.A.N.T.I.S, like I didn't particularly I wasn't thrilled by it, but it was like I finally got to watch it, and and I finally got to see and experience it. And so I'm always grateful that, when these shows come up that we get a chance to review them and step back into yesteryear.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel a lot of times with the movies like Zach brings to Pad and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I finally get to watch Scanners now or something. But yes, and this too. I finally get to watch G versus E and Strange Luck, another show that I remember seeing ads for too. So I do always appreciate the shows that both of you guys bring to the table for TV Obscura. Zach, what are your final thoughts on these 3 episodes, or should I say these 3 shows?
My final thoughts are I'm very grateful that I was actually able to watch M.A.N.T.I.S and Strange Luck after not seeing them ever. So I'm very glad I did. I enjoyed both of them in different ways. I was laughing to myself the whole time after I made the Bible Man connection with M.A.N.T.I.S. I'm just like, I couldn't get out of my head at that point. I'm like, oh shit, Willie Ames as Bible Man. But I really liked it. I actually really liked the first episode, so I will go back and watch the TV movie, because if it's better than the first episode, then I'm going to be even more happy about that.
I think you'll like the TV movie. I do.
Strange Luck, again, propelled by solid acting performances, which is what made the show enjoyable for me. More so than the premise. I think the premise is cool, but I thought the acting was even better. And then G versus E, you guys know I love that movie. I pop boners for it. So it's like, to me, it's like that's the clear, like I brought that to the table because I love it so much. I'm so glad you guys loved it. who knows? It would be nice to a year or so down the road, people say, well, that show got finally released on DVD because of Podcasting After Dark.
That'd be awesome.
That would be great.
That'd be a dream come true. And
we can be on the documentary.
And I didn't say it, but I'll basically second Diallo. G versus E was my favorite of the 3 shows that we watched.
And I will say too, just not to be like the balance guy, they're so distinctly different. And so I think when I brought G versus E, I'm like, what are you guys going to bring that's similar to this? Because there's nothing similar to this show
like G
at
versus
all.
E, really.
Right.
But what I like is Strange Luck. Strange Luck is a very weird show as well. It's kind of an odd premise. And when they pitched that, I'm surprised people were like, yeah, let's do it, because it's kind of an odd premise, but it works. It's unique. M.A.N.T.I.S is a unique superhero show. So there you go. They're all kind of unique in their own way. And man, yeah, just give me more G versus E, baby.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
I know we're wrapping up right now. There's a lot to plug, right? I mean, we've been plugging the whole episode, but we haven't plugged Cartwright, for crying out loud. Tell everybody about Cartwright.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Well, Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast that Adam and I are going into our 8th season right now. So 8, every single episode of Seinfeld, and we've already recorded like the first 3 episodes of season 8. So we are rocking and rolling in all things Seinfeld over at Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast. We are also tackling Curb Your Enthusiasm on the Cartwright Patreon as well. So guys and gals, you know at this point, every podcast has a Patreon account. So support your favorite shows. Go and if they don't have a Patreon, go leave 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go leave one for $2 late fee. Go leave one for the First Noel Chronicles. Go leave one for Cartwright and Podcasting After Dark, or leave one for all of the shows on the BFOP network. But speaking of the First Noel...
Go leave one for Action, by the way.
Oh, yeah, Action. Go leave one for our pals over at Give Me Back Our Action Movies, Give Me Back Our Horror Movies. Go leave one for Ready to Retro. All of our fun little, non-network shows, again, like the First Noel Chronicles. Speaking of, Diallo, what you got going on over there, buddy? What you want to plug?
The First Noel Chronicles. Yes, First Noel Chronicles. It is a story that is basically the Lord of the Rings meets Christmas. I am really excited about the next few chapters I'll be releasing. It is a podcast with me reading as an audiobook with a little music in the background at various points to heighten the dramatic feeling. And you can also read I released the written chapters simultaneously when I released the podcast, and that can be found on Kindle Vella if you just search for the First Noel Chronicles under A. Diallo Jackson. And it is on all major podcasting platforms.
And go read Angela and the Dark on Comixology. It's an awesome comic book that Diallo wrote with awesome art by Russell Fox.
Yeah, Russell is in another level of stratosphere right now. Like, I'm watching a lot of the artwork he's doing just in general, and I'm always grateful when I see him doing other projects. Like, wow, I get to work with him, and that's really great. And he's also become a really good friend as well. So we have a lot in store in the future with Angela and the Dark, and hopefully it becomes a favorite of kids and particularly young girls moving down the road. And also back in production on my other project, Ears, which I finally am going to be able to put the nail in and finish that one. It's been a long time coming, but I'm a grinder, so I just keep going until I'm done. And finally, it looks like the door's opening, so I can kind of get the final moves on this one.
I love it. That makes me so happy to hear. I love the Ears project. It's been in your life as long as I have been. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing that one. Zach, what you got going on over at $2 Late Fee? I know that you're going to be kicking off season 3 soon?
Season 3, yeah. By the time this episode airs, we have already launched season 3 of $2 Late Fee, and we're kicking it off in a big way. We're talking about 1982's Megaforce and the song Megaforce by the band 707, and pop culture moments from 1982, of which there are quite a few really fun, unique ones that cross all like genres: comic books, video games, toys, movies, etc., music. That is our pre-episode to our upcoming interview with Barry Bostwick, aka Ace Hunter from Megaforce. He was also in Rocky Horror Picture Show, which most people will know him for. Spin City. He talks about both of those. But we spend the majority of the time talking about Megaforce, which he was happy to do. One of the coolest dudes we've ever met in this interview series that we always do on the show. So go check us out in $2 Late Fee. It's a lot of fun. This episode might possibly be one of our funnest episodes. Funnest? Yeah. It's entertaining. It's very entertaining.
I can't wait to hear it. And yeah, by the way, I don't know if it's sacrilegious or not, but Spin City is always what pops in my head first when I think of Barry Bostwick.
Well, I will, like, little fun fact, or I'll sprinkle this in. So after we finished the interview with Barry Bostwick, we kind of exchanged email messages back and forth, and he said, "Thank you so much for not asking me for the umpteenth time what it was like to work with Tim Curry."
Oh.
So he's like, "Thank you for making it about me." And I'm like, "You do realize you have a huge fan base." But the guy is really cool. Spin City, he told some really cool things about working with Michael J. Fox.
Okay, cool.
Very unique things. So I don't think you're going to hear it anywhere, because the guy actually doesn't really do interviews. And how we got that interview, well, you're just going to have to listen to $2 Late Fee's episode.
Nice.
Because it was hard.
So go check out $2 Late Fee. Go check out Angela in the Dark. Go check out the First Noel Chronicles. Go check out Cartwright, a Seinfeld podcast. And go check out every single show on the BFOP network. Talking Back, Blast from Our Past, Action, People Don't Forget, Throwback Trivia, Takedown. And of course, go check out all of our friends, the friends of the show. Go check out Ready to Retro. Go check out Give Me Back My Action Movies. Give Me Back My Horror Movies. Go check out all the shows that we love. The Nerd Twins, go check them out. And we're always having a good time over here. And guys and gals, as you know, next time will be a cartoon episode, and I love those so much. Maybe it's because they take a lot less pre-prep, but they're fun episodes to do. I love these episodes too, by the way. They're a lot of fun. But next time we are going to be doing a cartoon episode, and I'm going to be talking to the boys offline right now about what my pick is. But I don't want to put it on out there just yet, because what if it's not like on YouTube or something, right? Like, what if I say it and then we can't fucking find it like anywhere? So I'll talk to the boys afterwards. But next time we're going to be doing a cartoon episode. And as always,
we'll catch you on the obscure side.
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.